Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this video, we will discuss a short story written by William Sidney Porter. It was the real name of the writer, an American writer, but he wrote all his stories with the name of O. Henry, a changed name. As we have another name in English literature, Jane Austen, a changed name from women to name was changed to a male. So there are many writers we can find in English literature and other literatures also where the writers they change their names according to the standards of the society. That sometimes the society never didn't allow the women to write, so they changed their name uh, to male one, and sometimes the writer's own name could have been damaging for his or her stories. So due to different reasons they changed their names, and same is the case with William Sidney Porter. He wrote many short stories, and he is well known for his pen name O. Henry. The real name was William Sidney Porter. uh, to understand the writing style of O. Henry and his themes, there is one story, a short story that you might have come across in your first year lesson after metric. When you enter in college, there is a story, Gift of Magi. If someone doesn't remember, then you can open book of English of first year to revise it. You can find it on Google also. So Gift of Magi, just I give you a short uh, synopsis or a short brief summary of Gift of Magi, that there are two lovers, husband and wife. One is Della and one is Jim. Both they love each other, and on Christmas they have to exchange the gifts. Uh, Jim had only one watch without chain, and Della, the only beautiful thing she had, she was a pretty girl, and her long hair added much more to her beauty. Uh, but when there was time to give gifts to each other, they were not having money. Della was not having enough money to buy a chain of watch for Jim, and Jim didn't have money to buy combs for her beautiful hair. So both of them they sell their most beautiful things they have in their lives, the most lovable things in their lives. Jim sold his watch, and Della sold her hair. So both of them they bought gift for each other, and when they exchanged gift, although it was no use for both of them because Della had sold her hair, the combs they were no use for her, and the chain of the watch was no use for Jim because he had already sold his watch also. But it represents their true love because they were living in extreme poverty and there was no one to help them, and they were true to their self. They were having some ego in their characters, that they don't want to beg something from others. So whatever they had, they sold it. Just this was one way to show their love for each other. So let's come to this from that story, The Gift of Magi. You can have an idea that O. Henry wrote about poverty. Most of his stories are written to describe extreme poverty. Now here you can make a difference. If we talk about a bit about dramas written by Shakespeare and the stories written by O. Henry. What Shakespeare wrote, what in English literature, medieval literature, modern literature. Nowadays the things are changed, but till 18th 17th century, the protagonist, the characters that they were center for discussion for the writers were kings and queens and princes and monarchs and high elite. Extreme poor man, extreme poor characters, they were never discussed by the writers. So O. Henry was, you can say that he was almost the first one who wrote about extreme poverty. Because when we talk about other aspects of life, A man who is very poor, a man who is hungry, he had to eat something. If someone is very hungry, he is suffering from starvation, what would he do? He Nothing will come into his mind, his or her mind. So a poor man or woman must be thinking all the time about how to get bread from somewhere, how to earn his livelihood. So the rest of the things have least importance for a poor man, or a poor woman, those who are living under poverty. As far as we talk about revenge, we talk about love, we talk about other aspects of life, making progress in life, and other aspects, they come when we are not living in extreme poverty. So this is the difference you have to keep in your mind to understand the writings of Henry, that he took the characters, those who lived under extreme poverty. And one thing, when you read his biography of O. Henry, he himself spent a very miserable life, a very poor life under very poverty. And if if I'm not misleading, he was also jailed for some crime. So a very and he had a daughter also who also lived in extreme poverty. So in most of the stories of O. Henry, you can find a young girl who is living under extreme poverty. So that young girl, you can resemble that young girl to that one. Like, it is believed that O. Henry always had a character of a young girl living in extreme poverty, struggling for her life. So it is said that probably he wanted to represent the stories of his own daughter, that how she used to live in extreme poverty. So most of his stories are about a young girl who lives in extreme poverty. So when there is poverty, nothing comes into your mind. Uh, Before reading the story of O. Henry, you must keep in your mind that we are talking about two classes. One, a person who is filled up. I mean, who is not hungry at all. And there is a person who is extremely hungry. The one who is filled up, he will start thinking about other aspects of life and the world. The one who is extremely hungry, he definitely nothing will come into his mind, his or her mind, but uh, how to get bread, how to get bread for his living. So let's start. This is a short story. Uh, the protagonist of the story is Miss Lesson. I forgot to mention her name in the character list. Miss Lesson, a young girl who is a typewriter. She types different stories and other projects and she works on demand. Like, she starts search a job, a work, a project is for 1 day or 2 day or 3 days. She's been paid for it, and she lives with the small money that she earns with her own typewriter. Now again, you can make a comparison that O. Henry was himself a writer. uh, and typewriter, when there is a person who is having a typewriter, it means that something related to writing is there. So Miss Parker, she is a very, you can say, a greedy woman, not a practical, but a more practical woman, you can say, instead of saying her a greedy, that she owns a few flats. One costs very high, $10 and $8, and one is a small room in a very worst condition on the top of the floor, and it has rent of $2. Miss Lesson, who is in search of a room, she comes there and she hires that room for $2 because she cannot afford a luxury room. And Clara is maid of Miss Parker. She's a colored maid. Colored maid means black, a Negro. When she's living there, Miss Lesson, she's living in extreme poverty, in hard times of her life. She's not getting work there. She always moves out of her room in search of work, but she couldn't get it. And most of the times she comes back disappointed. And the ladies and the men sitting outside, they start discussing about her because she was very pretty and she was young. One day, Mr. Hoover, he stops her on the stairs and he proposes her for marriage. But she refuses because she was extremely hungry. She could not pay the rent of the room and she was not having anything to eat. So, for house and food, for shelter and food, she was struggling. She doesn't have anything. And she refuses the proposal of Mr. She enters into her room, and where uh, extreme hungry girl, a young girl, she lay down on the bed, and from the corner, from the window of the room, she always looks at the star. The star is there visible on the sky, and she had named that star Billy Jackson. Uh, you can say that a typical girlish nature, like wherever they are living, the girls, they can much better understand that they always talk about the very minute things. So if there was a man in the room, uh, he could never have thought about the star and naming a star. So it is a one thing that it is typically nature of the women. Only a girl could have named a star as a name. So she thought that probably that star is the only thing that is uh, her- the star is as a friend, and she named it Billy Jackson. Uh, but on the next day, she did not open the door because she was fainted, unconscious, uh, because of hunger. So Clara, she comes there. She tries to, she knocks the door, but the door is not opened. But when she somehow manages to open the door, what she observes that mm, Miss Lesson, she is unconscious laying on the bed. In the meanwhile, ambulance was called to take her to hospital. And interestingly, the name of the doctor who saved the life of Miss Lesson, his name was Dr. William Billy Jackson. So the star, the name was given Billy Jackson, and interestingly, the savior of his life's name is also Billy Jackson. That star, you can say, the one to whom she had made friend to a star, now it has practically come into her life, and her life is saved. That is all about the story. Now let's discuss about the character of Miss Lesson, because she is the protagonist of the story. Let's start discussing that Miss Lesson, she represents hope, hope against hope. You are living in extreme poverty. There is no one of your relatives to help you. Uh, no friend is there to help you. You are the only one. You are jobless, and for a girl it is very difficult to survive. But surviving alone, without anything, and not compromising herself, she is not compromising herself, that when Mr. Hoover offered a marriage proposal to her, she refused because she was true to herself. She wanted to live her life in her own way. uh, like she doesn't want to surrender before the hard times that she was passing through. It means that she had a hope that someday some miracle would happen and her life would be changed. Just for a young girl who is 20 or 21, who is not having any relative, doesn't get any help, she's not having any hope, nothing, she's not having shelter and food. And if she's been given a proposal, if she's been offered a proposal by a man who can give her a house, who can give her food and shelter. So for most of the, for commonly psychologically, if you put yourself in the place of Miss Lesson, definitely you would think thousand times about the proposal, because when you are already living in hard times, it's better to avail the opportunity whichever has been provided to you. But there are very few characters, those who remain true to themselves, those who do not want to compromise their inner self. So whatever the thinking Miss Lesson had, she it represents that when she rejected the proposal, it means that she was much hopeful about the good days to come, and hope is life. So Miss Lesson's character gives us a lesson of hope that whatever circumstances you are living, there can be worst or more worst in your life. The circumstances can be, but if you remain true to yourself, the good days will come. And when she looks at the star means that she is living in a room in a very worst condition, but she looks at the star. You can also make a resemblance of the star to a light of hope. Again, a light of hope, that there is darkness all around, but you look one side on the light. It means that someday something would happen and your life will be changed. So you don't need to compromise yourself. So, first of all, she represents hope. Secondly, she is true to herself. She doesn't want to compromise anything. She wants to, she, even after living in, although she is living in extreme poverty, extreme hard times, but she never begs anyone from anything from anyone. She relies on her own competence. She just want to get a job, uh, to earn her livelihood. Then there comes good after worst. Like if you are passing through a very worst time, it doesn't mean that those bad days will remain uh, forever in your life. If you challenge the days, if you challenge the time, if you give a good challenge to the time that yes, I can do it, then the good time will come. And that the good time, it can be a miracle. Like in this story we say that a Billy Jackson, a name is given to the star, and the doctor comes to save her, and his name is Billy Jackson, William Jackson. So miracles happen when you are it is more uh, due to some reason I had to stop this video while recording, so let's start again. That if even if you are living in very bad days, the good days will come. uh, Again, you can now we can relate this all these incidents in the life of Miss Lesson to a struggling one, that those who struggle in their life. Sometimes you listen stories from your parents and from your grandparents. They used to tell you that what time, the worst time they used to they spent in their lives, when they have nothing to eat and they had to work hard, and then they kept working hand and the things changed. So we listen many stories from our ancestors, because no one is born with a silver spoon in his life. All of us This is the distribution of Allah Almighty to the people. He gives much to many, and He gives uh, nothing to many. And then those who work hard, they achieve. And those who stick to their ideas, they also achieve everything in their lives. And there is a famous quote in English that luck favors the hard worker and luck favors the brave. That once you are stick to your ideas, something would change. The miracles would happen. Miracles happen for those who work hard. Actually, the miracles those happen, they are the reward of their hard work, and they are the reward of their remaining true to their self, as this Miss Lesson had. And at the end, miraculously, a doctor came to save her life. And she doesn't surrender herself to the environment, as she rejected the proposal of Mr. Hoover. So psychologically, she gives us a hope. She is true to, if you are true, she's true to herself. She believes that someday the things would change. She keeps looking at the star. That star represents hope, represents good days, represents light, and she believes that someday her life would be changed. And the last thing, that she's the ego factor, not in negative sense but positive sense. Ego doesn't mean that you start living in your own, but here it means that you don't uh, beg from others. You don't compromise your personality. You don't compromise your inner greatness to others. You just don't surrender to the environment. You don't surrender to your surroundings. Although the people, they were laughing at her, Miss Lesson, and Mr. Hoover, when he proposed her, He was 100% sure that she would accept the proposal because there was no choice for Miss Lesson. The way she was living the life, she was given a good choice by Mr. Hoover, but she rejected. So this was the time when she remained true to herself and she believed in hope. And at the end, the result was there that without compromising her inner self, she the good days came into her life. Good days or success or whatever the word you want to use for it. So this is all about the analysis of Miss Lesson and the story The Skylight Room. If there is any confusion about anything, you can post your questions on comment section.